the other interesting concept was the research integrity officer, which from our discussion, it was like again they should not be parts of the institutional research body of the Iserc. I think that's a very interesting thing, and yeah, and you can notice how quickly you'll be able to like promote. Yes, just to address this allegation squarely.
Yeah. It's wonderful. I think it's important to have that office because then people feel they have recourse. Yeah. And that there's a systematic way of dealing rather than, he said, she said, he said, she said. So you have that office, you explain to people how you're supposed to report such things, what evidence you require, and then there's somebody who actually does an investigation. So everybody feels it was transparent and above board. Otherwise, if it's just an individual, you're not so sure. So we were just recapping from yesterday, Matthew and Eli. Karibu sana, Eli.
Thanks.
All right. Matthew, anything jump out at you yesterday?
Yeah, I think just the general sense of responsibility, like the scope of responsibilities that the Iserc committee has. I think that's important to recognize what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't do, so that way we're, it's not our job to solve problems that with every study that comes to us, but it is really important that we are empowered, to, like, if we have to shut down, for example, that we take that monitoring, that post-approval monitoring seriously, not just like, okay, you're good to go.
You're good to go, yeah.
So I was talking to my wife about something similar. The point idea is like this whole, both yesterday and the day before, gave me a much more expansive view of the role. It's not just about making sure that all the T's are crossed or I's are dotted, so to speak, on the protocol. And even Matthew, maybe not yesterday, the day before, I don't remember what, you made the mention of, I thought that the role of the Iserc was really just to make sure, is this study, it's not perfect, but is it safe, like, to conduct? And of course, the view of the Iserc's role that's been presented in these last few days is much more expansive. It has a lot more mentoring element to it, has a lot more advocacy element built into it. And so, of course, the idea is, yes, you have to make sure the protocols are in place to not grossly violate something, and you should be able to stamp it and say this won't grossly violate or hurt somebody's rights. But also, the next step then is to give you that mentorship of these are the things that are concerning, these are the things that aren't concerning, but I can see how they'd be easily exploited or neglected if you didn't change your protocols to make it stronger. Like some of those extra pieces that are there, it's a fuller, more expansive version.
True. Thank you. So back to this side. Lee?
I think one of the things that really stuck with me from yesterday, struck me, kind of a little bit off what he's saying, but the idea of the desire of the research, or the desire of a lot of the research to specifically affect the community. Because I feel like I did some like really basic science stuff before, so I never thought about like, how can we do something right here that's going to affect this community? And I feel like it's a really cool value. And,
Yeah. Okay.
So the key thing that I got yesterday was regarding the consideration when composing the Iserc. That was things to do with gender, racial balance, and ethnicity. So I went back and was wondering why do we also consider things like age when composing this committee? Because, for example, if we can have a committee where we have maybe a child between 12 to 17, and we want to make somebody that thinks in a similar way as where we are going to do the research, the vulnerable. So I don't know if that was consideration. Just the same way we bring in a layman,
Yes.
so that they can give us views that a typical community can have.
Yes.
So I don't know. Then
Yes.
a question that was not answered was even an odd number that Prof was talking about. He did not give us the reason why odd in the
odd?
composition and the
Yes.
number.
Okay, to answer that question, when I was thinking about the number of children I wanted to have, I knew they were going to be odd numbers. It was either going to be 1, 3, 5, 7, 11, anything that was odd, so that at least there can be somebody who can tip the scale. You know what I mean? So there'll be 2, 3. 3 people will say, let's do this, 2 people will say, and then it's easier to move on. That's why, that was my thinking when I was getting my children. Because we're not always arguing about, what we're going to have for takeout. There'll be now 3 people who say they want pizza, and people who say they want burger, so we'll have the pizza, and life moves on. You don't get stuff on such things, but that was for me. But I'm sure Violet has a far more sophisticated. That's right, the number is odd. Violet, why is it
Paul knows. You saw him nodding.
Paul?
Actually, he even said why it was odd.
yes.
And when I said about the attrition in the committee and replacement, I asked him whether he made sure when he was replacing, it didn't change, that it stayed odd. And he said why? Why do you make sure it's not?
It's a very sophisticated reason. And so, is it, yes, as sophisticated as Carol said, it is there so that when you do have a vote, which we always are voting on things, are we voting to approve a protocol or to say this protocol needs a little bit more work? And so in that setting, if you have an even number and exactly half says yes and exactly half says no, then you're in a bind. How do you break it down? That's why it's really important to have an odd number of members so that you can always tip the scale in one way or the other.
So regarding the same, can we have a runoff?
A runoff.
So for the Kenya after election, just to go to the Supreme Court, and the number of judges are usually odd also, and then often there's a discussion, is there a runoff?
But I don't know if Violet said that you can do it by consensus also. So not all ethics committees do it by voting. So at Cambridge we don't do it by voting, we do it by consensus. We all must agree. And if we don't agree, we send the comments to the investigator to clarify the issues that we are not agreeing on. So yes, so that's why having younger people, I had just said it's good to have younger people. If, for example, when we are doing, if you have a proposal to do with prisoners, we try to get somebody from the prisons. They are not part of our committee because we don't have so many of such proposals, but at least we can send it to somebody who works in the prison so that they can tell us whether some of the things we are suggesting should actually happen. Okay, same thing to Army. Although now they already have their own ethics committee, so that's the same story because their systems are a bit peculiar, yeah, and you may not understand it. I remember when we were looking at the guidelines for research in adolescents, sexual and reproductive health in adolescents. We did have them in the meeting. There were lawyers, there were bioethicists, there were doctors, but we also had the adolescents for everything they said I didn't understand. They were using shame and some mixture of language, but they came and said their point about how they feel research should be done on them, and it was extremely helpful. It was extremely helpful, and that's how come now we have adolescent-friendly family planning centers in hospitals, because they say that if you don't want to go there and your mother is here, you are here, what's that? And you're all going to get the pill. Doesn't make sense. One of you will walk away without getting that pill, and it will not be the mother. So there you go. So it's true. But as to actually having them in the meeting, yeah, maybe when their proposal comes, then a proposal that is relevant to them, they can say their bit and then they can give. think there's one person here who's not said something, and you're not James
And
King.
there's Samson.
Is Samson.
Is it here?
Yes. Is Samson Bukwa? Were you here yesterday? We were just talking. Oh, okay. We were just talking about what we listened to yesterday and what came away with us. So that's really awesome. Paul, did you come away with something?
Yes.
Yes.
So what has really stuck with me
Mm.
from yesterday is another approach for looking at protocols.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, the same approach for actually writing them.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was pointing out yesterday, that's the stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I had looked at protocols from that lens
Mm-hmm.
before,
Mm-hmm.
as a way of making sure
Mm-hmm.
that the benefits to the community is actually ensured.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I thought that's something that really has changed the paradigm
For you. Yeah.
stakeholders.
Yeah. So is this? I don't want to make a mistake.
That's okay too.
This is okay. Procedure. So we are going to dive in how to review a proposal. Sorry. Started wrongly. We start again. Okay. So as we go through how to review a proposal, that's what I want you to have in mind, always. When you're reviewing a proposal, this is a hack. What's the purpose, what's the population, and what's the procedure? Okay? You can't see. Oh, okay. But purpose, population, procedure. Just keep that in mind as we go along with how to review a proposal. It's going to be very short, this presentation. We're not going into great details. Why don't I go into great details?